It is March 29th, and March brings along one of my favorite things in the whole entire world, March Madness. I love sports, but to me, March Madness is perhaps the most perfect sporting event. For every single tournament, there are 68 teams, and out of those 68 teams, there are over 9 billion possible outcomes that can be made of every single tournament. It's perfect. Some great teams can shine, some underdogs, Cinderella stories can happen, and they happen almost every single year, and you never quite know where they're going to come from. Simply put, March Madness is the most perfectly broken sporting system I believe that exists in the world. Before we dive into the actual tournament and the Final Four and the 4 teams left in the NCAA college basketball tournament, I want a quick life update. So I still have a mullet, still neck deep in this mullet. It's growing out, it's starting to actually look more like a mullet, and it's weird. It flips from day to day. I'm feeling it, I'm not feeling it. I think it's coming to its end though, because I've gone through all the fun interactions with it. But there's a freedom to having a mullet. I don't really care as much about my hair, because as long as the front is not a total mess, everything else doesn't really matter. It's meant to be a total mess of sorts. So, we're sticking with it for a little longer. May not be on next week's episode, but we'll see. Now into my bracket. My bracket is terrible. Absolutely horrendous. I did not watch much college basketball this year, despite recording and filming a lot of it. I did not watch much of it, actually. So I was not very educated when coming into this tournament, and that showed in the outcome of my bracket. I had 7 of my Sweet 16 teams correct, less than half, and then I proceeded to go on the Elite 8. I missed all 8 of the Elite 8, so it's not looking good for me. I am in the bottom 7% of all brackets in ESPN Bracket Challenge, which is pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. In my bracket, I chose Gonzaga, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, to win it all. And I think that's a rookie mistake. I am never a fan of Gonzaga. I never believe in the Gonzaga system and their ability to win the tournament. But they somehow managed to convince me this year that they may have a chance. And they didn't. Thank God. Part of me is happy, part of me is sad. I would like to have a better bracket, but it was lost long before Gonzaga was knocked out of the tournament, so hard to be upset about it. The Final Four is between North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, and Villanova. These 4 teams are a good example to me that you should never count out the Blue Bloods. The Blue Bloods are the teams that we all love and know. We know them to be great because they have a history of being great and often are the teams that are in these defining Final Four moments, but yet somehow I still managed to doubt all of them and had none of them in my Final Four because I don't know what I'm doing. Without further ado, let's do a little bit deeper dive into each team from the Final Four and give a little bit of a preview of what's happened in the past and what's to come in the future in these coming games coming up this weekend. Villanova. They are a team based in Philadelphia, led by Coach Jay Wright, who is probably the most handsome coach in all of college basketball, maybe all of college sports, dare I say. Beautiful man. And they are a perennial powerhouse. They are, at times show some shaky seasons, but they're always led by typically a white guard who is a solid point guard who you probably played in high school basketball, but just don't remember it because he looked like everybody else, but was just a lot more fundamentally sound. In the first round, they cruised to a victory over Delaware, 80-60. Shooting 46% of 3, which is very respectable, and held Delaware to a measly 15% from 3. 15%! They shot 3 times as well as the other team did from beyond the 3-point line, which, if you're playing any team, it's going to be damn hard to beat them when that is the case. They then went on to play Ohio State, a Big Ten team, and won pretty comfortably, a 10-point lead. Ohio State's a good squad, but they weren't able to edge them out. And they battled with the 11th seed Michigan and beat them 63-55 despite a 15-15 game from Michigan's big man. Beyond their starting 5 and their 6th man, only one more person played, and he played a total of 2 minutes. So they were running a heavy rotation the whole entire game. Ultimately, it paid off for them as they won, advanced to the Elite Eight, where they played the Houston Cougars, led by Calvin Sampson. Neither team shot more than 29%. Houston managed to shoot a measly, miserable 1 for 20 from 3, and ultimately the Bulldogs, or the Villanova Wildcats held on in a dogfight to win 50-44. How did Kansas get to the Final Four, you might ask? And that's a good question, because they have been carried by a guy named Remy Martin. He has came off their bench, but he's played big minutes for them throughout the season, and he has came up huge when it mattered in this tournament. Kansas steamrolled through the 16 seed Texas Southern from the famous movie Glory Road. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest. It's a good basketball movie. But they rolled through their first round opponent, who surprised, and then went on to deal with a tough Creighton side in the second round, winning 79-72, out-rebounded them by 16 rebounds, 47-31. And who I mentioned, your boy, Remy Martin, came in huge with 20 points off the bench. They went on to play the Providence... Oh, what are the Providence? I want to say Providence Deacons or something like that. They went on to beat Providence, holding them to 2 of 14 shooting from beyond the arc, and Remy Martin had another huge performance off the bench, coming in with 23 points and 7 rebounds. They then played Miami in the Elite Eight, kind of cruised past them, 76-50, and are now sitting comfortably in the Final Four, ready to face the Villanova Wildcats. And I think, honestly, if Kansas can shoot well and keep up their defense, have held 3 teams to under 20% shooting from behind the arc. If they can do that, I think they have a good chance of winning. Although Villanova are known for winning and holding out through dogfights. So it'll only be a battle of defenses, I think. Ultimately, I think Nova's going to come out on top. Now for the other side of the Final Four. Massive, massive matchup between 2 teams you have definitely heard of, 2 2 systems, coaching systems, 2... What is the word I'm looking for? 2 colossal programs in college basketball. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill versus the Duke Blue Devils from Durham, North Carolina. So we'll start with the North Carolina Tar Heels. They trounced Marquette in the first round by 32 points, blazed right past them, squeezed past Baylor in the second round in a tight overtime matchup. Despite being up by 18 points at one point, Baylor fought back, but ultimately wasn't enough in overtime, and North Carolina came out on top against the previous defending national champion Baylor Bears. Despite shooting 5% less than the UCLA Bruins, another blue blood school, they won against them and advanced to the next round, where they ultimately ended the tragic yet heroic St. Peter's Cinderella story. The St. Peter's Gamecocks from New Jersey fought a long and hard way to get to North Carolina in the Elite Eight, the first ever 15 seed to make it to the Elite Eight after beating at one point, number 1 team in the country, Purdue Boilermakers. Their historic Cinderella run was unfortunately ended by the Tar Heels in the Elite Eight. But that can't take anything away from St. Peter's. Like I said, March Madness is one of the most perfect things that I can possibly think of. And St. Peter's are a perfect example of that. They battled their way through the tournament, beating Blue Blood Kentucky in the first round. Huge upset. Then Murray State and then Purdue in the third round. Ultimately lost to North Carolina, as I mentioned, in the Elite Eight. But you can't take anything away from them. They beat Purdue to advance to the first ever Elite Eight for 15 seed on Peacock's Day. Their run cannot be discounted in any way. They made true history, led by a guy named Doug Eater with a good, gross, controversial, tell me how you feel about it, mustache. His fearless leadership pushed them past some teams that you would just not expect them to be beat. Purdue have one of the deepest teams in the country, and they still managed to lose to a 15 seed by 3 points, somewhat dramatically, but they did not step up to the challenge, and St. Peter's did. And that's kind of the story of every Cinderella run. Every single tournament you play, every single game is a new season, essentially. Whatever happened in the previous game or the previous 10 games doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is what you do from tip-off to the end of the game. And St. Peter's, they knew that, and they took advantage of that. And this always happens at least once per tournament, and it is my favorite thing every single year. It's typically a school you've never heard of as well. That's how my school, Butler University, got on the map. Probably one of the main reasons why I even go to this school is because of their basketball program and their Cinderella run. So it could fundamentally change the future for a university if they make a run like St. Peter's has. I bet their tuition and enrollment is going to go up drastically these next 5 to 10 years, and we may see St. Petersburg or St. Peter's around more. You never know. But standing across the matchup from the North Carolina Tar Heels is the Duke Blue Devils. And this is a storyline in itself, and I need to get out of here. But Coach K leads the charge. Coach K is the man, the greatest of all time. They've had several battles throughout the tournament, winning every game, obviously. With almost every single game, they've had 5 players in double digits. Paolo Banchero has been their fearless leader. He's obviously an NBA prospect. He's going to be a big player in the league. He's 6'9", long, athletic, can do about anything with the ball in his hands. A great player. And that 5 players in double digits almost every game, they've managed to shoot over 50% in every single game, including 57% against the Michigan State Spartans, a tough matchup in the second round. Realistically, if I'm picking a team to win this national championship, it has to be Duke. It is Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski's last season in college basketball. My boy has to get the dub because it's just the storyline, isn't it? It's just the storyline. He has the most all-time wins, the most all-time Final Fours, 13 regular season titles, 15 ACC tournament titles, 5 national chips, and 6 gold medals with the U.S. national team. In fact, in his coaching record with the national team, he is 88-1, 26-0, I believe, in Olympic Games. Coach K is the GOAT. The term GOAT is thrown around too much, but Coach K is the definition of that. He has broken so many records. He has been at Duke for 41 years, people. 41 years. That is, I don't know if you understand, but that is a long time. They've only missed the tournament 2 times since 1983-84, and one of those times, well, technically 3 times, but one of those times was a pandemic, so we don't really count that. His run has been incredulous, unbelievable, insurmountable. His record, his legend is something that can never be taken away from him. Just a true legend of the sport of basketball, not only college basketball, but basketball in general. Most respected coach maybe across all of basketball, other than maybe Spurs coach Greg Popovich. Coach K, true legend. I have hated him at times in my life because he is a perfect, hateable coach. The black hair, the nose, the everything, just the way he looks. But he's so smooth with it. He's so classy. He's been doing it for years. He knows what he's doing. He's been here. He's built for this. So it'd just be the perfect movie moment for him and his team to win and end the season on the highest note and end his career on the highest note possible, finishing with 6 national championships and would be 1,198 wins all time. So many more than second place. Just a pure legend. Pure legend. So I guess my bold prediction is that could be that Duke is going to win it all. I would not be particularly surprised if I were you. But because it seems so perfect that they're going to win, I wouldn't somehow be surprised if they got beaten by the number 8 seed North Carolina Tar Heels in the Final Four matchup, because either Coach K winning the national championship or them losing to North Carolina in the Final Four seems like a perfect ending to his tenure. Duke, North Carolina, one of the most storied matchups in college basketball history. Coach K, the most storied coach in college basketball history. He finished with the national championship. It's perfect. North Carolina beat him as an 8th seed in the Final Four. Also somewhat perfect in the more negative sense for his legend. But it's each side. The rival gets the victory. The hero gets his tail. It really could go either way. I'm not a professional. I'm not an insider. I don't have the facts. I know what I read. And I'm going to say if the Blue Devils continue to score the way they do, spreading the ball evenly and making the shots that they take, shooting over a 50% clip, that's a hard-ass combo to beat, especially on the back of Coach K, who is going to make those right calls in the clutch moments. I'm picking Duke to win it all. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Procrastinating Podcast. That is all I have. It was sort of just a Final Four countdown special episode. I know I mentioned there was going to be a guest this week, and there wasn't. I apologize. Hope you enjoyed my picks for this draft. And that is all for this week's episode. I'm going to be late to class now because of this, but it's okay. I will see you next week on next week's episode of the Procrastinating Podcast. That has been it for this week. Peace out, y'all. Guess let's go shoot some hoops. Oh. Whatever. See ya.